Hello, everybody. It is me, Mr. Moohead. Welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I am your host, a big and furry bovine, and that's me. And this is my crew, the Two Live crew. Three people who are so dedicated to the cause. I mean, what can I tell you? Rick, Jake, and go ahead, Rox. Go ahead. I mean,
go on.
Wait, Joe Pesci from Lethal Weapon.
Okay. What Leo wants, Leo gets. Get it?
Okay, go ahead, Rox.
Yeah, I came the closest to the score. Go Browns.
Resident color.
You find this amusing?
Yeah. That was a little bit. That was like the black version of, oh, Mickey, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Mickey. And I am La Grande Orange in honor of Donald Trump, the biggest dork in America. And I wear this for him because, you know, if they impeach him, I'm going to go to war for him and start a civil war in this country. Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my ass. I wouldn't want to go where the military would send me, let alone where that Dorkshire might send me. Dorkshire, that makes him a man of distinction. He's wealthy. He's a Dorkshire. A guy who's a dork has no money. A Dorkshire, it's a different story.
Sounds like the name of his golf course.
Yeah, Dorkshire Hills. Yeah.
Welcome to Royal Dorkshire.
Royal Dorkshire. Jimmy Hamlin is playing Royal Dorkshire this week on Tee It Up, Ohio. Yeah. Awesome. It's great to have folks with me to, you know, what a game we had. It was quite an interesting football game. And it's amazing. You know, I want to start out the program rather than going with just the latest news and this and that, but going right into some commentary about this. And I'm actually putting this on speaker view, so you get to see La Grande Orange in all of his glory. What can one win tell us? And the things that were being bandied about on social media were like, oh, you know, the Browns have found their offense and Baker's really great and this and that, and they're really that good. And, you know, this yin and yang thing, I'm not so much into. I think it might say more about the Baltimore Ravens than it does about the Cleveland Browns. Stop and think for a minute. The thing that was interesting about this game in advance of the game was the whole idea that the Ravens were the team with the defense and with the hold on to the ball offense, time of possession offense, and that they were a dominating defensive front. They were having some problems on their secondary, but that they were 2-1 and were the best team in the North. And everybody pretty well agreed with that assessment. I mean, that was what the belief was. But now it's kind of like little cracks are developing in this story. Anybody can beat Miami. I mean, let's be honest about it. I mean, they don't have a team. Kyler Murray looked really good against the Ravens and damn near pulled that game out at the end. The Chiefs, the Ravens played tough, but they gave up a ton of points in the process. And now the Browns score 40 on them. So the premise of, gosh, the Browns only score 16 points a game, the offense isn't clicking, and boy, we have no chance against the Ravens because the Ravens have such a good defense. What you saw were 3 turnovers, 2 of which were in panic time. When they fell so far behind, they started making mistakes that were uncharacteristic, things that really we hadn't seen during the course of the season. I see that Brian is trying to get in, raising his hand. Let's bring Brian in here, the crazy mofo. Let's bring him in. All right. I love Brian. Brian is like the life of Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
Hi. Getting ready for a civil war, buddy? No, I'm not. No, I'm not even going to go there. No. We're talking Browns.
Can we start with Baltimore?
Yeah, let's talk about Baltimore. So what can this one win tell us? And we'll start with Jake. Really, after thinking about this for about 24 hours, what does it tell you?
It tells me that the Browns, if they run the ball half as well as they did against the Ravens, are a 10-win team. And it also, they really need the run, and Baker should not throw more than 33 times a game with this style. That's all it really tells me. I mean, I don't know how good the Ravens are or how good the Browns are. It's too early to tell, but I think with the sample size we have, if they can run the ball for 130 yards a game and keep the passing under 33 attempts, 35 attempts, they're a playoff team.
All right. Rick, what's it tell you?
Pretty similar. A balanced offense is going to be more effective than what we've had before. The other previous games, it was like Chubb just disappeared in the second half and you rarely saw him. But, incorporating him throughout the entire game, not, making sure he's still a part of it. And Baker incorporating all the receivers, not just constantly focusing on Beckett. I think Baltimore was sort of focused on OBJ, and consequently, Baker was able to find other receivers. I mean, the Landry went nuts, although I'm praying he gets through concussion protocol okay. But we may have found a tight end in Ricky Seals and Croft. So there you go.
Yeah, before we get to Brian, I wanted to thank one of our viewers who made a comment after the post-game show. And I did go back and watch, the highlights of the game again. And Landry hit his head in the end zone going for the pylon with the pass that he caught, where he faked the option. Remember, he faked that little option move and he went down the sideline. That's where the concussion happened. All right. Brian, what does it tell you?
Well, number one, it says that the Ravens aren't as good as they thought they were. And it also says that Freddie Kitchens finally has reined in whatever the deal is with the offense and went back to the things that worked last year.
All of these are valid points. I never say that you're over any hurdles in particular, because you're always one injury away from an unhappy situation in the NFL, and more teams are going through it. The Bears just got bit with Trubisky going down with a shoulder separation.
Oh, can I have an addendum?
Sure.
Thank God for Steve Wilkes.
Yeah, I mean, it does make a difference, and it's interesting, as much as I'd like to say all of our ills are corrected, I don't believe that's necessarily the case, but I am focused on our division, because we have to be better than 3 teams to go into the playoffs. And that's really all I want this year is, all I want for Christmas is the playoffs. And I think that we're getting the battle of the forlorn in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati tonight. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Howard Cosell Live. Why are we showing this game? I don't understand. There's nothing to see. Joining me in the booth is serial killer OJ. Put that knife down, OJ.
Warm up the Bronco.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Mason Rudolph is not going to be You know, the Steelers are in a world full of hurt. The Bengals might very well win tonight and go 1-2, but you know, it was the Ravens who posed the great threat to the Browns. And what I realized watching this game is that you lose CJ Mosley, and now today they picked up LJ Fort off of, you know, basically the cut list. He was let go by Philadelphia. He was let go by Pittsburgh. When was the last time you saw the Ravens scrambling for a linebacker 4 games into the season? You say, there's something terribly wrong here. You know, something's not going well. That's first thing. The second thing is they have a coach.
Together, total anarchy.
On that team, we have a coach who only does things Marty Schottenheimer way. He's a defensive coordinator. He's a guy who has made it to the playoffs and won at high levels, the highest level, with defense. And the defense isn't there. The personnel isn't there. And what adjustments is he going to be able to make to an offensive system that he knows nothing about? Here's another thing that really made me shocked watching the game. Wink Martindale, who still sounds like a game show host to me. I don't know, but he's the defensive coordinator. You know, welcome to Tic-Tac-Toe. I'm Wink Martindale. He was trying to run blitz schemes. And you want to talk about forlorn with, I want to say, 14 minutes and 3 seconds left in the first quarter. They sacked Baker, and not again. And they were running the kitchen sink at him, and they couldn't get through our offensive line. Our offensive line is a veritable sieve, but no, the personnel isn't right, and the communication isn't good, and they don't have an offensive coordinator who's going to work their way around it, because the more that Lamar Jackson has to do this early in his career, the harder it's going to be. And the more the defense comes out of the game saying, we really stunk, and it starts, that kind of pervasive losing attitude starts pervading the locker room, then they become not the old Browns, but the later vintage Browns. And Ozzie Newsome is relaxing in his easy chair, kind of like this, you know, like Captain Kirk on the comm. Yeoman Rand, blow me. No, I'm sorry, I didn't do that right. Yeoman Rand, blow me. Okay. William Shatner asking for oral sex. You could take it out for me.
Not Robert Kraft?
No, he takes it out himself. Nobody does him. He has to, he's DIY, man. It's like, no, you're doing yourself.
I don't touch that.
It's all racist stuff. I'm sorry, but I had to do it.
Not
So-
with the 10-foot the pole. No.
Only way.
No, they come in gray.
Oh, that shade of gray, that's like one of the 50. I don't want that. No.
Only way family dog play with that is if pork chop hanging on.
I yell, fetch.
I see. No. Little holes where people touch you with 10-foot pole. It goes on and on, folks. But that's what I see in this, is that what are teams going to do? They're going to scheme. Make no mistake, the Browns were prepared. Their offense looked better because they looked at what the other teams were doing to get 300 plus yards passing on the Ravens. And when
Other
it came
than
to-
having, other than the obvious of having Mahomes on your team.
well, I mean, I look at this and I say the running game was opened up because for once the Ravens didn't know what was coming. 1st and 15 from the 7-yard line or from the 12-yard line, excuse me. And what do you get? They figured Baker would be doing a quick hitting pass. That I watched that play a dozen times. Where is everybody on the left side of the defensive stance? Where were they? I mean, you could have driven a tank through that. So I'm looking at this and saying, if it's going to come down to them having to outscore people because people are scheming and running tight ends over the middle and they can't get a pass rush on people, they're dead in the water. I'm keeping a real eye out for the Ravens to see if they get their shit back together or if they tank. Because this is a rude wake-up call. Big time rude wake-up call. Another thing that it tells me is that the team did not lose faith, the Browns, in themselves or their head coach, despite all of the noise surrounding the team in the press, national press and local press. And they stepped up when they had to, and they made big plays when they needed to. And, you know, D-Bag is back in the chat room, and he's saying a horrible taste of humble pie for me and my Ravens brothers. You know, it's the thing you have to be afraid of is nobody remains great forever unless it's, you know, and even the Patriots only can beat Buffalo now by injuring their quarterback by hitting him in the head. I mean, nobody stays great forever. There is a window of opportunity, and you really, and the Ravens have been really great for such a long time that, you know, you wonder if that window is closed on them or is in the process of closing. You know, it's the same feeling I get for the Cleveland Indians, who finished up the season 0-5. You get the feeling they're going to take that momentum right into next season, you know? Indians fever.
That was their longest losing streak of the whole year. And they wait till the end of the season to pull it off.
Yeah, but I'm still amazed that they managed to squeeze out 93 wins with this roster.
And that's the thing that pitching can do for you. But the real question is, every season is different, and you really have to wonder whether they'd have another 93.
Who's the wingding they traded? Kluber?
No, Kluber's still with the team.
Kluber's still
Correct.
there, yeah.
Bauer. They traded
They
Bauer
got
to
rid of him
Cincinnati.
fast enough.
I know it ended in. I knew it ended in ER.
Yeah. Mr. Drone.
Yeah, you know, Pat Seagramson saying, has anyone noticed the lack of Jannard Avery in this defense? Well,
He's on a rotational basis, and everybody is playing in front of him. I mean, if the guys in front of you are Sheldon Richardson or not Sheldon Richardson, Vernon and Garrett, are you really going to see the field that often?
well, I mean,
Probably.
especially when you're playing 4-2-5s. I mean, that we knew that linebacker position was going to kind of be, you know, and with Schobert playing as well as he is right now, it's tough to break through that. And it's not that Jannard Avery is a lesser player than he was last year, but the scheme has radically changed. You know, it's a, and it was more than just showing up and punching the Ravens in the mouth. It was, I mean, it would be one thing if we got up on them and we just kind of, you know, it was that after the half when everybody in Baltimore had to feel good. Geez, we got outplayed the first half and it's only 10-7. And then it was 10-10. It's like, okay, now this is starting to look more like Ravens football. But to have that second half go south the way it did, And to see at the end of the game, their defensive line being pushed backwards into the end zone with Dontrell Hilliard running over the top of them. That's just not Ravens-esque at all. Punching somebody in the mouth is gaining respect early, but mowing somebody down for really 3 out of 4 quarters of football, that is a different story, and should never be the case for two teams that on paper were looked at as being, the contenders in the North. When you have that home field advantage, you just don't want that to happen. Somebody's saying, can you imagine if a Bills player hit Tom Brady like that? It's like, yeah. What
One
would
of the
happen?
Commentators even said that. Or
Well, the league would step in and just give the trophy to Kraft again and Belichick. They would call off the Super Bowl. Yeah, it tells me so much more about the Ravens than it does about the Browns, except that you don't have to throw the ball vertically that far down the field. And it's yards after catch. You look at the big play that Landry made early, the horrible tackling. Somebody came in and tried to throw a shoulder at him. That's horseshit. When a guy's breaking free like that down the sidelines, you wrap him up.
I
Looks
think
like
that was
something
Tony
that
Jefferson.
fuck that TJ Ward used to do. Bullshit like that. I mean, you don't need that. And it's not like Jarvis Landry is a great catch and run guy, but there he would kind of look like the road runner. Meep. It was only his own man that tripped him that brought him down. You kind of got the impression that maybe the Ravens wouldn't be able to by themselves. A lot of yards after catch, and this has been what they're giving up all season long. Makes for scheming, good scheming. Every team now has knowledge of this team. And it's going to change a lot of things. And the Browns found out that you really don't have to throw bombs to get the job done. And even a mediocre Ricky Seals-Jones can, if he's athletic, can get open in the middle of the field and make a difference if he can get off the line of scrimmage and catch the football. It makes a huge difference having that extra receiver who can get down the field. He's historically not a tight end. He was a receiver in college, a wide receiver. But that gives you maybe a Njoku-esque kind of guy, a guy who's athletic, who can get into the open field.
He's just not as fast.
No, he's not as fast, but it didn't seem to matter on the one catch when you're that open. I suppose it doesn't really matter how fast you are. This is a heartwarming story I wanted to share with my panel and with my viewers. Browns players appreciative after the Cleveland Fire Department greeted their plane with a celebratory water arch on Sunday night. This is kind of cool. They were greeted to a spectacle by the Cleveland Fire Department. As the plane taxied in, the fire department made a water arch for the plane to roll under.
That was on Twitter. I think it was Landry posted it on Twitter. He was looking out the window and saw it.
I mean, that's got to be a great feeling, when you're a player. The interesting, as part of a related story, after the game, the Ravens players were escorted off the field by the Golden Shower, fans urinating on them from the stands. That different kind of water arch there. So.
Better pee than bullets.
Yeah. I mean, listen to what people are saying on social media now, okay? Jay Crawford, all the drama, all the criticism, first place. Jim Rome, well, look who's in first place now. America's team, the Browns. Rex Ryan, I was thinking I was going to get a game ball. You got to get your ball with a steel boot tip tip boot, you fucking asshole, Rex Ryan. He likes feet. Maybe he'd like mine right in his testicles. Here's Dan Orlovsky. Mayfield didn't look too overrated today, and the Browns had the worst possible month they could have to start the season, yet they're at the top of the division with a road win. Colin Coward. Coward. Colin Coward. Freddie Kitchens figured it out. Nick Chubb is our star. Feed him and often. See, that way he gets off the Baker thing, who threw for 342 yards and completed 67% of his passes. That's why he's a coward.
Well, Mangini said the same thing. I watched that segment. He said the Browns finally learned their best player is Nick Chubb and Baker should take a back seat.
Who said this?
Mangini. Of course Mangini said that, but
Yeah.
Well, what would Mangini know about offense?
Yeah.
He was 10-22. The fucking little penguin.
Yeah, and I remember
What he said
his
there, yeah.
the great game where he won 6-3. That was the crowning achievement of his career. Fuck him.
But yeah, that's what he said on a Cowherd show. He just mentioned how they have to get out of Nick Chubb's way and let him lead the team. He's their best player.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like you can really count on Nick Chubb catching a pass off of the defender's back. Blah, blah, blah. That was him last year. Fuck that.
Here's what Chris Carter said. Quote, God, I've gained a lot of weight since I retired. No. No. Chris Carter said, since Baker has been named the starter, the Browns have been the better team in the AFC North. How about Shannon Sharp? I'm not surprised the Browns won the game, but I'm surprised how easy they made it look. The Browns need to play through Nick Chubb. He doesn't get enough credit. Were you watching the team? Then, of course, Skip Bayless said, Baker Mayfield is underrated as hell. Well, and of course, he can say that because Oklahoma is so close to Texas, they might as well be the same state. Right, Rox?
If you say so.
Well, really, what's the difference between Oklahoma and Texas? Really?
Just one little border.
No, not really. About 6 IQ points, maybe. They're a little smarter in Oklahoma than they are in Texas.
At least in Austin.
Silence. Absolute silence. But the further north you are in Oklahoma, the smarter you get.
I'll go along with that.
There you go. I figured you would.
Until you get to Nebraska, and then for some reason your sphincter becomes the size of a manhole cover.
Okay. Thank you for that. Here's the Browns' offensive player ratings. This is interesting. Baker Mayfield at a 77.3. These are PFF numbers. Jarvis Landry at an 81.8. Kadarrell Hodge played one play. It doesn't make any difference. Odell Beckham at a 56.9. Taywan Taylor at a 54.3. But here's the big one. Damian Ratley, who had plenty of snaps, a 42.5. He can't be out there. And that's what the eye test told me too. He just wasn't worth shit out there.
He had one catch, and I know he was called for at least 2 penalties.
3 penalties.
3 of them?
Yep. The running back, Nick Chubb at a 91. What's not to like, right? And then Dontrell Hilliard at a 72. They just ran wild on you, brother. Okay. Old
And
wrestling.
touchdown. How about that?
Yeah, I know. Offensive line. Look at who did what. Joel Bitonio at a 74.5. He's our best guy, right? But McCray was at a 67.9. Greg Robinson, who sucks, was at a 63. Chris Hubbard at a 60.8. Now, Austin Corbett actually made the field. He had a 60. Did he play one down? Can somebody look that up on the panel for me? How many snaps was Austin Corbett on the field? How did I miss that?
Maybe he got at it when the game ended. He was just going across the field, shake hands with the opponent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way he could get out of the field.
The clock was still running, yeah.
Well, the final play's over. It says, hey, good game.
J.C. Treader only a 56, but Eric Kush a 29.5. That's got to go.
He got called for a couple penalties, too.
Kush gave up 5 hurries against the quarterback, and he flinched at the line of scrimmage. Look, cannot have him. Bitonio had an 82.7 pass blocking grade. Robinson had a 71.2 run blocking grade, which was the highest of all of them. McCray played just 3 snaps, and here you go, Corbett only 1. And that was Olga Corbett, out of sheer respect for the Olympic teams. The tight end,
Real better block than Cush.
God. The tight end, Pharaoh Brown, an 85.4. Ricky Seals Jones, 73.1, and then Demetrius Harris at 52.8. All right. Brown's pass blocking, 74.8 and 5 snaps. At least he did something. And his run blocking in 24 snaps at a 70.2. Pharaoh Brown gave them size. Harris didn't block for the passing game, but he did have the second most snaps out there, and he was the lowest rated again.
He had a weekly holding call, of course.
Yeah, Demetrius Harris to me is just not panned out the way we would have wanted a backup tight end to be. I don't know why Freddie Kitchens is making such a big deal about Jarvis Landry, about OBJ getting choked on the field. I mean, he's going to see the film and he's going to see that OBJ head slapped Humphrey. And
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if did you finally see that play, guys, where he head slapped him to the ground?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
it was the right call to be offsetting.
Yeah. Next thing you know, there's OBJ on the ground with having a slight problem breathing.
I'll tell you, I would choke the motherfucker too if he head slapped me and gave me a concussion. You know, dangerous stuff. You just don't do that. You don't do that. So I wish Freddie would back off this.
Yeah, but he's being held on every fucking play.
I understand that it's frustrating. Yeah,
Welcome to the NFL.
It's frustrating.
And it's never called. They didn't call the head slap, but they also didn't call the previous 10 holds against him.
Now, look, I understand how frustrating it is if you can't hit a man on the side of the head. And if you do and you get away with it, that player is going to come after you. I mean, you know, then it's lawlessness. So, you know, Baker is doing the Baker now, you know. They threw us in the trash and we won't forget it. They, the press, everybody. It's me, you and me against the world. Yeah, Baker is hulking up. It's going to be interesting to see Monday Night Football, what happens. If you don't believe me that your season can just go down the shitter, look at the Denver Broncos. Bradley Chubb has become Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. His torn ACL. Instead of losing a hand, he's lost a leg. But Bradley Chubb's a big player for the Broncos, and he's gone for the year. And they're 0-4. It goes to hell quick. When you don't have a quarterback, folks, it goes to hell quick. And you can trace it back to Tim fucking Tebow. You could really trace it back to John fucking Elway, horsemouth. Great quarterback who doesn't know one when he sees one. How many?
And Bradley Chubb's out for the year too.
Yeah.
Well, I would say the retirement of John Elway as a player.
No, he was a good quarterback, but
but I'm saying
general manager, he sucks.
They've never been able to replace him since he retired in what 98, February of 99, something like that.
Yeah, living on defense, and again, it's. But it doesn't look like Elway knows a good quarterback when he sees one. He just keeps picking the wrong guys. It's unbelievable that Chubb ran 21.95 miles per hour on that run, and it looked like he was shot out of a cannon, didn't it? I mean, that just looked like, he looked like Secretariat, man, pulling away from the field. But, you know, the funny part of the story is Cuckoo Baker Mayfield was running down the field, sprinting in elation, and he ran 18.92 miles per hour. which you say, well, I mean, for Baker, that's pretty fast. But when you see that Baker ran a 16.5-mile-an-hour 40-yard dash at the combine in 2018, that's a 4.8 and in excitement, he ran 18.92. I guess when you're pumped, you can do all kinds of things. Or when things are pumped into you. Who knows? Odell Beckham reached 21.7 miles an hour. That means that Chubb was running faster than OBJ. That's amazing. That's amazing. I thought that, I mean, that's unbelievably fast. Unbelievably fast. Now I'm going to turn this over to my panel. I want you to all give an ode to Vontaze Burfict. And this is always
Can I give an
fun.
odor instead?
Brian, you can start, seeing as how you started.
Well,
All right.
what can you say about that guy?
Did you see the
I'm
play?
just so- I saw the replay of it.
Did
I
you
didn't see
see
it
him
live,
leaving
I'm
the
sorry.
field?
It-
He was laughing.
Terrible.
And he was waving. Big smile on his face.
Why he and Richie Incognito are still allowed to be in the NFL, I have no idea.
Well,
I could even defend Incognito because he came from a different culture of NFL. His wasn't physical. I mean, this guy's literally trying to hurt people on the field.
he's a criminal. This guy's a criminal. He should be in jail. I mean, plain and simple. And I've said this in years past. And, you know, I don't know why the Raiders took a flyer on this guy. He doesn't think about anybody but himself, and he is a criminal. And it's terrible. When I saw him running
Because they
off
wanted
the field,
to, I think he, what's his ass, wanted to get back to the Ben
Raider
Big
way.
era of the Raiders.
I mean, what is justice here, Rick, for Vontaze Burfict? What is justice?
Thing that astounds me is he's actually appealing this. And if he walked in the office and he says, I'm appealing this fine, I'd have looked at it and said, you want to try for 2 years? Please have a seat on that taser, by the way.
Well, the players union automatically, you know, it's all part of the brethren. You know,
Yeah.
what do you think justice is? What is the fair thing to do with this guy?
Well, the 1 year, that would have been a start. And the just let, if he comes back the following year, say you have no leash. If you look
You know
at
what?
somebody wrong, you're gone.
Jake, tell me if I'm wrong about this. Tell me if I'm wrong.
You know what, Dennis? Fuck you and your fucking worthless ass Patriots. I can't wait till they play the fucking Patriots. Just like I couldn't wait for week 4 to
Who's
come
Dennis?
to silence the goddamn Ravens
In the
fans.
chat.
You fucking sorry piece of shit.
He's trolling.
God, I wish you were in the same fucking place as me. I would love to carve out your goddamn tongue right out of your fucking worthless skull.
Wow. Who?
And we're back to
Dennis
Vontaze Burfict.
Charpentier?
Yes.
Denise. It's Denise.
Denise Charpentier.
Charpentier.
I am
You know, you do not use deodorant. Your penis smells, Denise. Denise Charpentier.
Leave or I shall taunt you a second time.
I will taunt you. Hey, Denise.
And your mother smelled of all elderberries.
Your father was a hamster.
And your mother smelled of
Smelled of
elderberries.
elderberries.
And that was our Monty Python reference for the day.
Oh, God.
Oh, I'm a front runner. I love the Patriots. Did you love the Patriots in 1990 when they were the fucking doormats of the fucking league, you fucking a-hole? When the Browns last made
Wow.
the real playoffs?
Yeah, you
Don't
know,
hold back, Brian.
Fuck
Tell us
why.
how you feel.
what I can say,
Charpentier is what happens when syphilis actually merges with an egg in the uterus.
But tell me if I'm wrong about this. I'll go back on track here.
Sorry.
Josh Gordon smokes weed, and if anything, hurts himself, right? Maybe the
Self-inflicted.
smoke in his lungs or whatever. If anything, he hurts himself. And he gets thrown out and comes back, thrown out and comes back. This guy, Vontaze Burfict, is hurting players. He's injuring players, and he is precipitating CTE. How can the players union even stand up for this guy? Because he's hurting the brethren. I don't get this. I don't understand it at all.
I think they have to. The CBA says so.
I understand that, but
But,
you
I
know,
don't
yeah.
think Vontae could spell that CBA unless you spot him the C.
'Cause, I mean, if there's a way, could they just like, when he does suffer from the CTE and have the effects, say, screw you, you don't get your insurance for
Well,
injuring all these guys?
you
Yeah,
wonder.
Like in like 30 years, like you injure too many people to ever get that benefit of the doubt to get health treatment right now.
you
Like
can
I feel like there's something.
you can try harder, try less, or not try at all. And if you're the players union, you try a little just for your charter, you know, but you don't try too hard. I mean, to me, he should be thrown out of the league now.
Or his payments start in 2 years, just take away a couple years of his payments in retirement so he knows like there's
I
something you have to
guarantee
do.
you, you throw him out of the game, he's going to end up in jail. He's going to commit assault on the street. He's a criminal. He will end up in jail. He'll end up in prison. I guarantee you.
Cancel his insurance and give him Vince McMahon's business card.
Yeah, it's
Well, it's like BJ Penn from the UFC. He was a great champion 10 years ago. He was past his prime and kept fighting. And now that the UFC is done with him, giving him less fights, he's been in 3 bar fights in the last 2 years and arrested.
yeah.
I mean, it just got to him.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. The Browns next going to San Francisco. I always love to get a little behind in my work. Jimmy Garoppolo has completed 69% of his passes. Last year, only 52. He's thrown for 5 touchdowns, 739 yards. They have the 6th best offense of the NFL heading into week 4, and we're 5th in points per game at 32 points per game. Sounds an awful lot like the Ravens. He has Marquise Goodwin, Deebo Samuel, but George Kittle is the straw that stirs the drink. He's their top pass catcher. Last year, he set the single season record, 1,377 yards for a tight end. So you know how you have to scheme against these fellas. The defense for the 49ers last year gave up 27 points a game, only 18 this year. Through 3 games, they trailed only the Patriots in the defensive categories, including yards per game and total yards allowed. They were 3rd in points per game allowed. 3 games may not be a complete measure, all right? But they're improved. They got Nick Bosa. They got Dee Ford at linebacker. You know, they've gotten better. Their running game is going to get a spark because Tevin Coleman is coming back. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He scored 11 times in 2016, totaling nearly 1,000 scrimmage yards. He's a dual threat guy, and he can hurt you. He's due to come back. He injured his ankle week 1. He's not played since. He should be back.
Janine Garoppolo.
Well, Garoppolo is still an unknown quantity. I'm not ready to coronate him after 3 football games last year. He was not good. They were 5-11 last year with him, and he completed 52% of his passes. And anybody who cannot complete more than 60% of their passes is in the long run going to fail in the NFL. Here's
He's
the
injured,
deal.
right? He tore his ACL like week 3.
Who?
Garoppolo. He didn't play last year.
Oh, it was the year before.
Yeah, he did that
Yeah.
little sidestep going out of bounds and tore his ACL.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. But again, things were not, I think that he's a question mark. He's been good for 3 weeks, 3 games. But remember, Kyle Shanahan is the man there. Okay. And all I have to do is tell you that Kyle Shanahan made Isaiah Crowell look like a professional running back. And nobody else could do that. Here's the bottom line with San Francisco, with the 49ers. 2 years ago, they signed Jerick McKinnon to a 4-year, $30 million contract. He's a running back. He tore his ACL before the regular season. He looked on track to play this season, but suffered another setback and underwent knee surgery. Despite having not played a snap for the 49ers, McKinnon is the league's 7th highest paid running back. Tevin Coleman, we just mentioned, he was hurt in week 1, hasn't played since. They're down to the low ranks in their running backs, but the trio of Matt Breida, Raheem Mostert, and Jeff Wilson Jr. are all looking good like Isaiah Crowell did, and it's because of that zone blocking scheme that Shanahan uses. That was the only time.
They've been doing it for 27 years, he and his dad, and they can never figure it out.
And like I said, when you make Isaiah Crowell look good, I mean, you know.
Tip of the cap.
Absolutely. Yeah. He who shits the ball out of his ass to the stands in Cleveland. Is Isaiah Crowell even in the league anymore? That's a question.
Not sure.
I mean, I've not heard his name mentioned. But that was the only time the Browns running game was for shit, was when Kyle Shanahan was here. Now, Kyle Shanahan rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I can say that. But it's going to be another challenge for the Browns defensive line to handle that zone blocking scheme of the running game of the 49ers. It's always a challenge, and that will make Garoppolo more effective if he doesn't have to throw that much. The more
Raiders.
He's with the Raiders?
I think he's on the Raiders.
But he's not played yet. He's
That's
not played in a game.
Well, that's
he's on
good for the
team.
Raiders. That's real good for the Raiders. Yeah.
Part
You
of
know,
that commitment to excellence.
yeah, exactly. But at any rate, that's what we have to look forward to. You know. And
Well,
I'm sorry?
With Landry in concussion protocol, this sounds like it could be Odell against Richard Sherman, maybe in the back in the receiving.
Yeah. You know, the thing is that we're hoping that Callaway comes back, that he's going to be able to do what he needs to do for us so we can get, you know, Ratley off the field.
Oh, God, please.
Yeah, I mean, but it really hurts because I see no way in concussion protocol that Jarvis Landry's back
No.
out on that field. And you know what, the other thing that really bothers me, what's really starting to bother me, and I didn't really talk about Freddie Kitchens, you know, the press conference. You know, they're talking about, you know, players who were hurt, and it's still, he's acting like Higgins isn't going to be around. And I'm nervous about this.
The,
Callaway will be out there.
When was his press conference?
Well, today.
Because he usually meets with the medical staff between 5:30 and 6 Eastern time.
Well, the comments that he made were, it was very vague. And they're not even talking about Higgins. And
He's
it
an invisible man or something.
And this knee thing, what the knee is, they're not telling us what kind of knee injury it is. Is it a torn MCL, which would be about 4 to 6 weeks? I mean, what is it? But they have not defined this injury, and it is of great concern. Because if we had Callaway and Higgins coming back, I feel pretty good going into San Francisco with that, you know? That gives us, you know, a lot of weaponry. But, you know, the other thing that I wanted to point out before the end of this program, here's some quotes from the defense of the Ravens. "It's disgusting," safety Tony Jefferson said. "Y'all look at the tape. It's not good. We'll have a coming to heart meeting," which I call a come to Jesus meeting, "Monday or Tuesday," Humphrey said. "We have to know what we're doing wrong and what we're doing right. Not a lot is being done right lately." Without their big man, Brandon Williams, the defense just got squashed. But what they're saying in the Baltimore press, here's the quote that's being written on BaltimoreRavens.com. "Williams' absence certainly hurt, but it wasn't a problem just up the middle. The Ravens, who are relying on younger outside linebackers after the departure of Terrell Suggs, have been gashed along the edges, and Chubb's long touchdown was on a toss play to the outside." Defensive tackle Michael Pierce jumps in. "We had a young guy in there and we did not set the edge. We've got some new parts that need to gel immediately." Panic? Head coach John Harbaugh, here's what he said. "When you have a gap control or responsibility on a run play, you have to be there. When you have a coverage responsibility, you have to do it. It's simple as that. We're not disciplined right now in that sense." How many times have you heard that in Cleveland, folks? And you know what that's indicative of? Because we can't say that Harbaugh's a bad defensive-minded coach. We can't say that. We can't say that about Wink Martindale, can we? But the one thing that the historical Browns have had here were bozos in the front office picking the wrong players, bringing in the wrong free agents and drafting the wrong players. Ozzie Newsome's gone, the new front office is in, and the players stink. This could get worse before it gets better, folks, is what I'm telling the people in Baltimore. I want to see how many of these guys that they drafted really become big-time players. Because right now, whatever it is that they're deep in their roster, they're obviously not disciplined and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Humphrey took the blame for one of the coverage busts, seemingly the one to Seals Jones, saying he did well in man-to-man but wasn't good in different zone coverages. I think that's the biggest thing that's hurting us right now. We're averaging a few busts per game. Earl Thomas has been in chase mode far too often, they're saying. He said Sunday's mistakes were a continuation of a problem and how Baltimore is handling throws down the seam. And we talked about this prior to the game. The notion that tight ends going over the middle on late developing patterns, here's what Earl Thomas said. We're just not reacting right to the different concepts that they're giving us. The glaring thing is the seam throws. We understood that those are Mayfield's best throws. We just didn't react to the concept like we needed to. I mean, everybody knows you got to cover the middle against Baker. I thought that was the point of all this. Also, tackling, uncharacteristically bad. Talking about the 65-yard pass play that I talked about earlier, where they decided that they were going to take a pinball approach rather than actually tackle.
Well, notice all this criticism they're having is not about the rookie quarterback who stayed composed and just kept to himself after the game and just owned up to the press conference.
Right. Well, they're concerned. Michael Pierce referred to the loss as embarrassing. I like to hear this getting down on themselves shit. 1 more week, 2 more weeks of this, man, they'll be done. They're going to realize that things aren't going so well.
Be curious to see which Harbaugh is going to have the hottest seat come the end of the year, Jim or John.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's I think Harbaugh will get replaced because they're going to need an offensive guy. I mean, if the front office is going to start picking guys, and, you know, this is a team that was really very much like the Steelers in the sense that, you know, you replace parts with more moving parts. You know, it's like you lose this linebacker, Shazier gets injured, you bring in, gets crippled actually, and you bring in another guy, and you always have a new guy to come in who's seemingly great. And that was the way it was for the Ravens for the longest time. But if the talent faucet is turned off here, they're going to need to go in a different direction. And I can guarantee you, with that young man at quarterback, I mean, I would love to see him break one to see how many miles an hour he can run. God, he's whip it fast. I mean, he is the fastest quarterback I've ever seen in my life. He can just accelerate and get through a small space in a big hurry. And I'm sure that they're going to be looking for an offensive-minded head coach if this goes down the crapper. And it may not be Harbaugh's fault completely because he's a certain type of coach, kind of like Lovie Smith was, that kind of coach who never had a good offense but always put a formidable defense on the field. That kind of guy. And if you have an electric young quarterback, you're going to bring in a Lincoln Riley disciple, aren't you? I think that's what the Ravens will do if things continue to go south for them. And if they can't get good picks in the draft, make good decisions, big problem. Tony the Calf, of all people, tweeted me when I said, Kirk Cousins, ? And his response was, who cares about football? I said, you did. Do you know this year that they've paid him $7.3 million? Not Tony the Calf.
I want what he, whatever his job is,
you-
I want what he's having.
We'd have to send out a search party all over the Vegas desert to find his fucking corpse.
It's a lot of fucking Oreos and Vaseline, huh?
And hookers.
And hookers, and falling asleep with hookers. But no, they actually have paid him $7.3 million this year. He's going to continue to earn $1.8 million per week. He made $3 million per win during a horribly disappointing debut season in Minnesota. And this year, he's made $2.4 million per touchdown pass. He's 2-2 this year after a horrific effort against the Bears, who didn't even have Trubisky. They let that backup guy, and I don't even know his fucking name. Who's the backup for the Bears?
Chase Daniel?
Chase
Chase
Daniel,
Daniels, yeah.
Missouri, like 12 years ago.
It's not even Jack Daniels, for God's sake. At least that would have been more entertaining.
Exactly right.
Or the blur would have been interesting anyway.
And drunken with the success, yeah.
Yeah, he's the worst guy to get that first fully guaranteed contract in football because now GMs are going to be hesitant to give that money back out.
He's 2-2 this year, 10-9-1 since they gave him the job in Minnesota.
Yep.
He's
fully
approaching,
guaranteed, $28 million a year.
Yeah, and he's at the midway point of the contract. He's halfway through is all.
The master of mediocrity.
That's what he is. By the way,
Wait, 300.
teams quarterbacked by Kirk Cousins are now 4-27 against opponents with winning records. Does that say it all? My God. It could be worse. You see, Browns fans, it could be worse.
We've lived worse.
Now, I was going to point out that Representative Chris Collins has to resign from Congress because he's pleaded guilty in an insider trading case. The same shit that Donald Trump does all the time. But he gets fired for it, basically, and he's a Republican.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi did the same goddamn thing, and nothing ever happened to her. So
because they all do.
That.
Yeah,
because she's a Democrat. We can't have that.
Hey, let me tell you, Stacey Dash, though, the chick, the black chick who was in Clueless with Alicia Silverstone, remember her?
Yes.
Stacey Dash, she was arrested for domestic battery.
I thought her mugshot was kind of hot.
Oh, yeah, exactly. God, she looked rode hard and put away wet. Goodness. But you know something? It's like Stacey Dash. She's 52. You know, you realize how long ago Clueless was.
24 years ago.
Yeah, that's a long time. But it's like, how come I never heard of her? Then I realized she works as a conservative pundit. She's a Republican.
Oh, God forbid she's a Republican.
That's right. And she's a batterer. She's violent, and the other guy's an inside trader. And you know, I'm going to start finding
molesters.
Here, let's have fun before we go off the air here. Wait a sec. We're going to do this. We're going to do this live in time because I know the viewers want this. Okay. I know they want this. Well, they may not want it, but they're going to get it anyway. We're going to Republican pedophiles. All right, let's plug that in. Here we go.
How about Democrat rapists?
Nah, that's for your show.
No,
For my show.
Hey, it's called tit for tat.
All right. Donald Trump is accused of sexual assault by multiple women. His wife said he raped her before she decided to describe it differently. He's accused of raping a 13-year-old girl and walking in on teens in the Miss Teen USA pageant. Judge Roy Moore, of course, accused of sexual assault and dating underage women. Representative Jim Jordan, accused of ignoring sexual assault of young men while a coach. Lovely. Dennis, how can we forget Dennis Hastert? How can we forget him? Sex abuse. How about the former Cobb County GOP chairman Joseph Russell Dendy for child molestation? Or how about the so-called pro-life anti-gay activist Howard Scott Heldreth, who was convicted of raping a child? All Republicans. GOP Richland County Commissioner David F. Swartz, convicted of sexually abusing a girl from age 6 upwards. He had her repeatedly. And he was released after only 8
John Young,
years.
Democrat from Texas, Colleen Gardner, a former staff secretary to Young, told the New York Times that Young increased her salary after she gave in to his sexual advances. In November, Young, who had run unopposed to the safe Democratic district 5 consecutive times, with Moore, as reelected with just 61% of the vote. The scandal wouldn't go away, and in 1978, Young was defeated.
You have to do the edited version. Republican anti-abortion activist Nicholas Morency, possessing child pornography on his computer and offering a bounty to anybody who murders an abortion doctor. All right. How about Republican Mayor Philip Giordano serving a 37-year sentence in federal prison for sexually abusing 8 and 10-year-old
Wasn't
girls.
it Alabama that recently passed their state initiative to charge women who commit abortion with murder?
Oh, how about this? Republican racist pedophile Strom Thurmond, your main man. Remember Strom? He had sex with a 15-year-old black girl, which produced a child. She was underage. It was rape.
Yeah, you know what? Strom Thurmond at that time was a Dixiecrat.
No, he was a Republican.
At least it
At the
wasn't
time
Dixie.
that he raped the girl, had sex
Yes,
with the
yeah, I
girl
mean-
and created the girl.
That's
No,
what
he
happened.
was
That's
not.
what happened. Once he became a Republican, he had this insatiable desire to rape an underage girl. This is
Well,
my
up
point.
until that time, when he was a Dixiecrat, he just wanted to hang them. So there's that.
yeah,
and
I mean,
in their lawn.
hey,
Over
here's my point. I do have a point to all of this, believe it or not. And I'm going to put the link in the chat room so you can all go ahead and look at that. Here's the deal. It is not a Republican Democrat thing. It is a human sickness. And to suggest that one party is more prevalently involved in such crimes, that's helplessly disgusting. It is repulsive. There are Republicans I know who are dear, sweet friends of mine who are wonderful people, and Democrats the same. And it isn't a political thing. Goodness.
I think if you want that much power, it means you have something to hide.
I think that there are a lot of sick puppies in the world, and
Well, there's
they
also an
belong to both
initiation
parties.
process that goes
Mm.
along with it, Jake. And yeah,
They-
pedophilia is a big part of it.
you know, they belong on both sides. And just like there are good people of all races and bad people of all races, not all Asian people are great in math. I mean, some of them are
except orcs.
criminals, so
Will Rogers had it right. He said that all politicians should only serve 2 terms, one in office and one in jail.
hey, all right. But he never met me. So,
And he liked to play with a rope.
ooh, an underage rope at that.
At least the one guy wasn't a Dixie chick, I suppose.
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Dixiecrat, Dixie chick, who knows?
Yeah. Sounds like a transgender thing. Dixie chick. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. It's going to be interesting as we get back on the air on Friday, talk about leading in here to the big game on Monday night. Again, I'm not going to be doing a post-game show on Monday night. Not good for my health. However, I'll be doing a halftime show, so you'll get the gist of things. And let's hope the Browns can come out and get on top of this and get to 3-2 because
Do you want to do a pregame show?
Oh yeah, I mean I'll always do my regular 6 o'clock program. Yeah, so
right.
There'll be pregame and halftime, so you get your 2 shows, and what the hell. And I did want to show this because I think this is kind of funny as hell. This was the original Moohead Radio business card. I found a stack of them. There was the original logo. Yeah, isn't that something?
What happens if I call that phone number?
You get plugged into the Psychic Friends network.
You may have just stalked somebody,
You
man.
wanted to meet Dionne Warwick. Here's your chance, folks.
If you like it in English, press 1.
And if you didn't see the slogan of the show when it started was Moohead Radio, pasteurized for your listening pleasure.
Now it's if we haven't offended you, you haven't been listening.
Now it's Moohead Radio. Fuck you.
Oh, the abbreviated version.
Exactly. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again on Friday as always. Way to go, Browns. Great performance. We're looking for another one next week to go 3-2. Until Friday, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.